What's going on, guys, and welcome back to #AskGSM here today for Wednesday, July 6, 2022, episode 449. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. I had a great holiday on Monday if you celebrate. If not, hope you had a great Monday. I think not tomorrow. I think Friday marks exactly 9 years since I started doing this show on the weekly. And as I've said before, the only period I think in which I did not do #AskGSM weekly, there were two times. One, shortly after I first started, in the latter half of 2013. I started in the summer of that year, in July of 2013, took time off from it to go to college in the final few months of 2013. Got back into it in early 2014. I may have missed a week that winter because I was going to kind of incorporate it into the podcast, and I decided just to keep it as a YouTube exclusive. And then the only other time I stopped doing the show, not by choice, but was when my laptop broke in late 2015. It was around the 100th episode of the show. I think I actually had to delay the 100th episode of the show because my laptop broke in October of that year, and I think I may have missed 2 or 3 weeks of the show. Other than that, we have been weekly every single week here with hashtag since 2013, 2014, whatever, which is awesome. And almost 450 episodes. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much, as always, for listening to the show, checking out certain parts of the show. At any point you've listened, even if this is your first time checking it out, I appreciate it. Or just sending in a question. You guys are great. I mentioned this last week in a brief update. No real update, but I will mention it again. I would love to go live next Wednesday for the show. We were live about a year ago, I think, either for that exact 8-year anniversary or whatever it was. I went live for episode 400 at whatever point that was, late July of last year, early August. I think it was late July. I would love to do that again for every 50 episodes, for episode 450 now. That would be coming up in 7 days and a week from now. So stay tuned on that. I'm not sure if I'll do that or not. I haven't gone live in a while, so I got to figure out how to do it again and get my laptop up and going for it. So we'll see. But it would be a cool thing to do, to go live next Wednesday, answering your questions live here on the air. For however many people tune in, that would be great. So keep an eye out for that. If you want to send in a question to the show, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a question I usually put up on Tuesdays, if not on the wall itself. And I say usually because I forgot last night. I was busy. I was actually watching Great American Bash live, and I usually watch NXT live, but I was watching it with Alexis, who usually doesn't watch the shows live, as far as NXT that goes, because NXT has not been great lately, obviously. But we did watch the show, and I completely forgot about putting up the question, so my apologies. But again, if you want to send in a question by Facebook, you can always do so on the wall itself, or message me or whatever. Or you can just leave a comment on this very video and include your question in next week's edition. So there's a lot of different ways to send in a question. Any and all questions are appreciated. I don't always select all of them. Either I've answered them very recently, or I get a lot of repeats from week to week, which is fine. But some of them, if I don't like your question, if I don't select it, don't feel offended. It's just because I've either answered it before, or if I just get tired of answering the same stuff. Not your fault, but I like to keep this down to a minimum. I like to keep the show under an hour. I do got to get going a little bit quickly today, so the show probably won't be an hour, but you guys would know better than I will because you're listening right now and you see the timestamp, so we'll see. Just know as we get going here that I have yet to actually put the questions. It's one of those days where I've yet to actually put the questions in a document and organize them and stuff, which is what I normally do. We've had instances like this recently, as recently as like a month or two ago, if not a couple of weeks ago. Usually I organize all the questions, make sure they're all good, and I answer everyone's questions. So, like for example, John Ritlin at Reborn Again, he's a great guy. If he sends in multiple questions, I'll answer them all at the same time. Sometimes, like on my Twitter feed, he'll send in a question to someone else, and then it'll be back to his, just the timing of it. So I'll organize it in a document. I haven't done that yet because I just haven't had the time yet today, so I apologize in advance for that. But let's get going here. First question from YouTube. Micah Does It. Their first question was, their only question, how do you feel about WWE signing Logan Paul? Personally, I like Logan Paul. I think he did great at WrestleMania. I can see fans booing him, but after a while, Paul will slowly gain the respect of the fans and start to become cheered after a while. Honestly, that's not a bad idea at all. Not a bad idea. I mean, it's not a bad idea, but that's not a bold or bad prediction whatsoever. I can certainly see that happening. Listen, someone asked me about this the other day, a non-wrestling fan, because this made non-wrestling news. A lot of people know who Logan Paul is. Your parents may not know who he is or who the Logan Paul brothers are, but A lot of people in the 20, 30, 40s, whatever, if you know anything about social media and YouTube and the boxing stuff right now, you probably know who the Logan Paul brother, who the Paul brothers are, Logan and Jake. I am no Logan Paul fan. I remember the whole Suicide Force shit from a couple years ago. I thought that was incredibly dumb. I'm not saying I hate the guy. I just don't really care about him in that way. That being said, not that I don't care, and I don't care, but let me put it this way. Him being signed by WWE, I think, is a good move. I talked about this on WrestleRant Radio when RJ broke the news to me last week. He agreed as well. The guy's a big name, and like you said, he seems like he's a genuine fan, and he did very well at WrestleMania. This could end up being a bust. It could end up being a waste of time. It could end up being completely, the opposite, have the opposite effect than what they're going for. We don't know. I'm not saying it will be a success. I'm saying I think it could be, and I think it probably will be. I'm not saying it's guaranteed to be a success, but I'm thinking it probably will be. The guy's a big name. I don't really have any desire to see him team up with AJ Styles against Miz and Ciampa at SummerSlam. That appears to be the direction they're going in. I just feel like that's an absolute fucking waste of AJ Styles. Them focusing on the celebrities more than they are the performers. We saw it at the Rumble. We saw it at WrestleMania this year. We saw it at WrestleMania last year. They're doing far too much of it, and that's where the current roster suffers. They're being the ones that are being sacrificed to these celebrities. And it's fun and all, and it makes for fun matches and fun moments, and the build can be cool sometimes and whatever, and it gets them mainstream attention. It will help WWE in the interim. But as far as the future, Logan Paul's not going to be here for 10 years fighting for the World Championship. Maybe he will be. Who the fuck knows what's in store. But when you start to focus on the celebrity attractions more than your actual roster, that's where you run into a problem. And we have that problem currently with a lot of the roster. No one on there feels special. Logan Paul does because he's not around often, and he was at WrestleMania. He did well. He was spotlighted. Where's the spotlight for the rest of the roster? That's my question. But honestly, I don't hate the move. A lot of people may not like it. The guy's a goof. He is a fucking goof. But listen, he can get good heat. If they try to make him a babyface now, that will definitely backfire. I just don't see that working. But as far as his athleticism goes and him working well with the other talent, I think he will. I think he's tailor-made for professional wrestling based off what we've seen from him so far. I think this honestly will pay off well. But again, they can't make him a babyface from the get-go. They can't expect it to happen overnight. But like you said, will people gain respect for the guy and start to cheer him over time? It's certainly possible. It probably won't happen right away. But over time, I could definitely see that happening for sure. Although he does such a great job of getting people to hate him. I think he's just such a natural heel. It might be a long time, if ever, before we see him as a full-fledged, accepted babyface. But the guy is just so easy to hate, and it works well in this respect because I want to pay him. I want to pay to see him get his ass beat. So I think he's honestly a very good pickup for WWE. When they start to focus on him before their actual talent, that's an issue. But as far as him in a vacuum, him signing with a company, I'm not opposed to it at all, honestly. No L's got a couple of questions here. Their first question was, how long do you give Liv Morgan holding the SmackDown Women's Championship for? I got this question a few times. Honestly, I give it till SummerSlam. I hate to say it, I was very happy for her at Money in the Bank. I think Liv's impressed and improved a lot in the last year. She's over. People are still behind her. I was shocked they had her win Money in the Bank, let alone the championship later that night by pinning Ronda Rousey of all people. Only the third person to do that behind Becky Lynch and Charlotte, and Liv Morgan is not a four-horsewoman by any means. She's certainly not booked like one. But if she's facing Ronda Rousey, unless Liv Morgan turns heel, which I think would be dumb because people like Liv Morgan, she's a natural babyface. Maybe at some point down the road, but not now. And Ronda Rousey's just, she's over to an extent at this point, but she's just a lot better as a heel. If anything, I would have Ronda Rousey beat the fuck out of her. Could you do a finish where Ronda Rousey beats the shit out of her and she wins the title? I just wouldn't put the belt on her. I know Liv is great in chase mode, but give her at least a couple of months as champion. She's been in chase mode for fucking 5 years. Give her the title for a little while, please. But honestly, if she's facing Ronda Rousey at that next pay-per-view and Charlotte probably back soon, I fear that we will see the end of her championship reign before long. Maybe Charlotte comes back for SummerSlam and we get a triple threat. Kind of the same thing of what we got last year. Except the issue with what we got last year was that Charlotte got the belt back by pinning Nikki Ash, I think, and that was the end of Nikki Ash's run in the Raw Women's Championship picture. I do not want to see that happen to Liv Morgan. Their second question, what would be your top 5 Shawn Michaels matches of all time? That's a loaded question. There's so many great ones. My top 5, again, are we talking best? Are we talking favorite? Some of my favorite / best Shawn Michaels matches, him and Taker from Bad Blood 97, obviously him and Taker from WrestleMania 25. Those are my top two. You could throw in WrestleMania 26 as well. As far as which one's better, I still say 25, but 26 is just, outstanding as well. I've gone on the record in saying it's the greatest WrestleMania main event of all time. Just my opinion. But I love that match as well. So those are three. Him and Triple H from SummerSlam 02, phenomenal match. Him and Kurt Angle from WrestleMania 21, amazing match. That would probably round out my top five, to be honest with you. The Jericho matches from 08 were great. Really, any of those, specifically the ladder match from No Mercy. I did not watch that live. I watched it for the first time years later, and they had a phenomenal match. I'm trying to think of other matches we got with Shawn before he retired that I was a fan for. In 08, he really just feuded with Jericho, and he took time off in 09, so probably would be those as far as the matches I was a fan for, like in the time I was watching wrestling. Before that, though, like I said, any of the ones I mentioned, him and Bret Hart, I like the Iron Man match. I don't think it's the greatest match of all time. It's kind of boring, to be honest with you, in my opinion, but it's still a very good match. Him and Stone Cold, not from 14. The King of the Ring match was a lot better, I thought. I'm trying to think of other matches of Michaels from the 90s I would put in that category. I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot more I'm just not thinking of. From the 2000s, I already mentioned a bunch of them. He came back in 02. The Elimination Chamber in which he won the World Heavyweight title at Survivor Series that year was amazing. I would probably put that in there because he won the whole thing. 03, the match with Jericho at WrestleMania was fantastic. 04, the WrestleMania 20 match with Benoit and Triple H was great, and the rematch at Backlash was also fantastic. Some of the Orton matches were really good. I love the Batista match. Honestly, I think this is a very underrated one. The Batista match from One Night Stand 08. Again, didn't watch it live, but I was a fan during that period. Mere months into my fandom, but that was a great storyline that kind of bled into Jericho and Shawn that summer. That was really good stuff. So, yeah, really any of those. I know that's more than a top five, but those are some of my favorite / best Shawn Michaels matches. And again, I'm sure there's more I'm not even thinking of right now. Top three SummerSlam moments. Kind of going off SummerSlam related stuff. I don't know. There's so many SummerSlams. I can't say a top three favorite SummerSlam moments. I've been at three of them. Three, I think. Yeah, I was there at 2015 when Rollins beat Cena to win the U.S. title and become the dual champion that he was. That was cool. I know the match was kind of tainted by the finish, but that match with him and Cena was phenomenal. Speaking of phenomenal, him and AJ. Cena and AJ from SummerSlam the following year was one of my favorite moments, period, when AJ beat Cena clean. That match was amazing and one of my favorite matches, period, and one of my favorite matches I've ever seen live. At SummerSlam last year, when Becky came back, that was a cool moment. Edge and Rollins had an amazing match. Brock coming back was one of my favorite moments as a fan because I wanted it to happen, but it wasn't like expected because people didn't know if he was actually coming back. I don't think it was rumored or reported at all. It was just like, oh, it'd be cool if he did, and then it did, and it was amazing. I mean, my fucking video of that moment that I took in person at the show last year got 5 million hits or whatever it was, which was crazy. So, yeah, those would be among them. Just in general, Shawn and Triple H from 02, not really a moment, more of a match, but that was a great match. Really all of SummerSlam 02, that show is just outstanding. Coming up on the 20-year anniversary, actually. Rock and Brock on that show. Our Bret and the Bulldog from SummerSlam 92, the Intercontinental Championship match. Great stuff. Other favorite moments from SummerSlam? I don't know. I loved Edge and Taker. Again, not a moment, but that Hell in the Cell match from 08 I really, really liked. At the time, I mean, it's still cool now, although the follow-up was terrible. Del Rio I'm no fan of now. At the time, I was a fan, but the way that was all done, the Cena and Punk thing from 2011 with the rematch from Money in the Bank, they had a great match. Punk wins, retains the title. Kevin Nash randomly shows the fuck up, beats the shit out of CM Punk, and then Del Rio cashes in. It was a crazy ending. 2013, this would probably be my favorite SummerSlam moment just because as a fan, I fucking loved it. I still think it was a perfectly executed moment in retrospect when Bryan beat Cena for the WWE title at SummerSlam 2013. Great match. Amazing match. Then Triple H, who was the special guest referee, celebrates with Bryan only to turn on him, lay him out with a pedigree, turns heel. Orton cashes in Money in the Bank. He turns heel, wins his first world title in 2 years. Oh, I love that fucking ending. That was the same show that we got Brock and Punk on 2, and Del Rio and Christian. That was an awesome SummerSlam. It was 2013. That's probably my favorite SummerSlam moment because I remember watching that live in a Buffalo Wild Wings with my stepdad and my brother. And just the reaction was great in the building, but obviously at Buffalo Wild Wings, it was just phenomenal. Trying to think of what else. Brock just straight up squashing scene in 2014 was great. I was there in 2015, 2016. Didn't really love at all SummerSlam 2017. That wouldn't come close to being on the list. 19, 18, all kind of the same show for the most part. SummerSlam 2020, Roman coming back, although there were no fans. That was a pretty good show. So, yeah, not exactly a great list that I just provided you with, but those are some of my favorite SummerSlam moments, some of which I've been a fan for, some of which I wasn't a fan yet for, but, yeah, those are some of them. We switch on over to the Twitter questions first from @UWagoo91. This is where I was saying they're kind of out of order, so I apologize again in advance. His first question, Shingo said during a New Japan event that he would like to return to AEW. What are your thoughts? I need Shingo back. Shingo Takagi, from what I've seen of him, the small, like a little bit that I've seen of him from the few matches I've seen him have, are great. Shingo's terrific. The problem is that was a really fun six-man, but he didn't really get showcased in a singles match. Like, anyone not familiar with Shingo is probably saying, okay, that was it? Like, why would I want to see him back? You know? I can only imagine. So I would love to see Shingo come back at some point, whether it be Forbidden Door next year, have a singles match, or some other point before then. Hopefully before then, because I feel like if he's back for Forbidden Door next year, and we had a lot of people out with injuries this year, he probably either wouldn't be on the card or he'd be in another tag team match. So hopefully he can have a singles match on AEW TV before then. @Reborn Again, John Ritland. Check out his YouTube channel, A Real Honesty with John Ritland. He does great work. As I always say, his first question was, so we got a hot dog contest and Otis puking on Monday's Raw. I know it was a holiday show, but is this more evidence that Vince just doesn't care anymore? I mean, any episode of Raw is evidence that he just doesn't care anymore. I actually honestly liked Raw for the most part. I didn't watch it until like yesterday afternoon, until like Tuesday evening. But I actually liked the show. The hot dog contest and the puking shit is fucking dumb. The hot dog stuff we see almost every year, the 4th of July episodes, that's hardly anything new. That didn't really the puking stuff was dumb. That was beyond terrible, but it was expected. Not to make it any better or condone it, but, you know, the holiday version, the holiday campiness on the show was what it was. We see it every year. That didn't exactly bother me because it happens so often. But we get that shit almost every week on the show, even when it's not a holiday, so... that is what it is, I guess. @Iwagu91, second question, your thoughts on SummerSlam happening this month instead of typically in August. Yeah, I've said this before. I'm not a fan, personally. I would honestly rather have a bigger build for SummerSlam because we only have 4 weeks before the show, and it just doesn't feel like it. We already have one Raw down, and it was a fucking holiday show, so it hardly counts. But yeah, I would rather it be in August. I'm an August guy. It just feels like we have nothing coming up in August because Clash of the Castle and All Out are both in September. Impact, I'm sure, is going to have a random show. But beyond that, like, there really isn't any major shows in August, and I just don't like that. I like the big shows in August. I like SummerSlam in August, right before the summer's about to end, and we're going to get it out of the way on July 30th, and that's going to be it for the rest of the summer as far as WWE and AEW go. So... not a fan, and also I'll be there too. I'm looking forward to being at SummerSlam later this month, and I wish it was in August just so I had more time to look forward to it and get ready for it, but I feel like it's coming up quick. His third question, how come there hasn't been another Mae Young Classic? Well, they did it in 2017 and 18. No reason why they couldn't have done it in 2019. You can't say, oh, due to COVID. I mean, you know, COVID has, not that it hasn't been a thing, it still is a thing, but... COVID they had in 2020, but they didn't do it in 2019. They didn't do it last year. And they could have done it this year, too, because it's like we've been back on the road now for over a year, just about a year now in WWE. They could have done one. They just don't care. That was back when Triple H was really running things and Shawn Michaels. And as far as I know, Triple H, or rather Shawn Michaels, is still very much running things creatively in NXT. Triple H is not. Yeah, I think they're the ones that really care about having more women's wrestling represented. And honestly, those tournaments were really their way of signing a lot of new talent. The problem is a lot of those people that were in those tournaments, including the 2 fucking winners, are gone. Io Shirai, right? Not Io Shirai. Kairi Sane left 2 years ago, and Toni Storm quit last year. Io Shirai's probably on her way out. She was in the semifinals. Mercedes Martinez is gone. Tegan Knox is gone. Dakota Kai is gone. Mia Yim is gone. All women they signed from those 2 tournaments, which were fantastic. They did have some stars. Rhea Ripley and Bianca were in those things, and they're at the top of their game right now on Raw and SmackDown, so it's not all bad. It's not like they fired everyone from it, but same thing with the Cruiserweight Classic. The division doesn't even exist anymore. Women's wrestling still exists in WWE, but they just fired a lot of the women that were in it. Serena Deeb is gone. They never hired Caitlyn when she was in 2018. Madison Rayne, that wasn't their fault. She just didn't want to sign. Who else was in those things? I don't remember. I'm sure there was other talent. I just don't remember. Shayna Baszler was in there. She's still in WWE now, but she's doing a whole lot of nothing. So they just don't care. They honestly, the women's division in WWE isn't at an all-time worst, but it could use a lot more spotlight and confidence from the company. They booked a lot of these women just with the 4 horsewomen. The only 4 horsewomen we have on the show right now is Becky Lynch. Sasha walked out. She's gone. Charlotte's out for right now. She'll be back soon. Bayley should be back soon. She got injured. And it's just Becky. It's not exactly like they created a lot of new female talent outside of those 4 women. Asuka, I hardly count. They created the star in her, but she's not as big as she should be, and I just find it hard to care about Asuka at this point. They have Rhea. They have Bianca. Liv, hopefully it pans out, but they did the same thing with Nikki Ash last year, and she was champion for 3 or 4 weeks before she dropped the fucking thing, and we haven't seen her in a main title picture since. And the gimmick sucks, and that's her idea, and I blame her for that. And I blame the company for approving it because the gimmick sucked. I'm sorry. The whole Nikki Ash shit was terrible. But they haven't exactly created a lot of new female stars. And they need to fix that before they can move forward with another Mae Young Classic. And maybe they think another women's tournament could help with that, but the last women's tournament I think we got was the Queen of the Ring, and that was a fucking disaster. So I don't exactly know what to say. If that was a disaster, I can only imagine how bad another Mae Young Classic would be. And a lot of the women that were on the indie scene at that point that they ended up signing were free agents. A lot of those women are now signed to AEW or an Impact or whatever. So I just don't know if the talent is there. I don't know if the free agent talent is there. And there's a lot of the women they let go themselves. So I just don't see it happening. Let's see. At Reborn Again, John's second question, I believe. With just over 3 weeks until SummerSlam, how do you feel or how do you think the card will shape up? I think it'll be a tale of 2 shows, some stuff that'll be dire, but there's some stuff that has potential for greatness. I feel like that's the case, honestly, with a lot of SummerSlam specifically. I can't even say WWE pay-per-views because, I might be in the minority here. I've actually liked a lot of the pay-per-views WWE's done this year. The weekly TV can be horrid sometimes, specifically on the SmackDown side. But I liked WrestleMania a lot. The Rumble I thought was overall a good show. Elimination Chamber was a good show, definitely one of the better Saudi shows they've ever done. I thought Backlash was a great show. I thought Hell in a Cell was a great show, and I enjoyed Money in the Bank on Saturday. So, I don't know. I think SummerSlam will be a good show, but like you said, last year, there was, Bobby and Goldberg was fucking awful. Alexa Bliss and Eva Marie was fucking putrid. And some of the other stuff on that show, I just could not give 2 shits about. But there was also a lot of great stuff. I thought Cena and Roman was a really good match. I thought Edge and Rollins stole the show. So I feel like that'll be the same thing this year where we're going to get some really bad and some really good. I feel like with the bigger WWE pay-per-views, that's typically the case. Mania was largely good this year, which is rare. But SummerSlams usually have a lot of great and a lot of, awful. For whatever reason, SummerSlam is just the show for that. I feel like this year is going to be no exception. John's third question, even with a huge roster, do you think AEW should cut one of their weekly YouTube shows? It's gotten ridiculous at this point, in my opinion. I would agree. I know you agree. As content creators, I just have no desire to sit through 2 dark shows. You kind of have to watch them just to keep up to date with what's going on and what talent's out there beyond what's on Dynamite and Rampage and whatever. I do feel like they should cut it, definitely, just because I just don't care. Honestly, what I think they should do, because there's been no word on what's going on with the Ring of Honor beyond Death Before Dishonor, that's great, but what are we doing as far as a weekly show? I say this almost every week. Where the fuck is the weekly Ring of Honor show? What are the plans with that? What are we doing? What are we headed towards here? So here's my thing with that. I think they should turn one of the YouTube... I know it's not on TV. They're not going to get a TV deal with Ring of Honor. If they do, that's awesome. I just don't expect it. Because if Rampage is pulling in fucking terrible ratings on Friday nights, what even time slot could they put Ring of Honor on? Before Dynamite on Wednesdays? Would they want to do that? Would they want a 3-hour block? I don't know. So I would turn one of those YouTube shows for now into a Ring of Honor show because it pretty much is anyway. They defend the Ring of Honor women's title on Elevation. They defend the Pure Championship on Dark. So why not just make it one of those shows, I would say Elevation, the Ring of Honor designated show, and film it before Dynamite or Rampage on Wednesdays or Fridays. That's what I would do. At the average grunt, how much longer do you think Main Event will be around for? Do you think it serves an important role in WWE's weekly lineup, or is it just a waste of space at this point? I mean, I think we all know the answer to that question. Main Event is just, it exists solely for the international deals, for no other reason. I mean, I watch Main Event as part of my content creation. I started watching it, and I can't not watch it because I review the show. I watch it so you don't have to. They're not going to get rid of it until... I don't really know. Like, even with Superstars, they got rid of Superstars, but they really didn't. Like, they kept Superstars around for so long. That's really what Main Event is. They kept Superstars around for so long because of the international deals. Until those deals are up and until they make no money off of it, then they'll cut it. Until then, WWE has never really scaled back their programming. They've only added more programming. And with Superstars, yeah, they got rid of it, but really Superstars became 205 Live. And 205 Live became Level Up. So that's kind of where they fulfill those contract obligations or whatever with a show that exists on Fridays or on Wednesdays or on Thursdays, whatever, on Peacock or the network. That's kind of where it fills, and Main Event's the same exact thing. Main Event's been around for 10 fucking years, and it's been a complete afterthought for almost 8 or 9 of them. So the show's not going anywhere. It hasn't aired anywhere aside from Hulu for the last 6 or 7 years. So if it hasn't gone anywhere yet, I don't expect it to go anywhere anytime soon until that international deal runs out, or they just feel like it's not worth it to, I don't know. I mean, it's not like they're wasting time filling, a building to film Main Event. No, they tape it before Raw. They just film 2 matches, and they fill it with replays, and it's not about ratings because it doesn't air on TV here. It airs on TV, I think, in other countries, but not in the U.S. So it's really no hassle for them. They'll keep it around for as long as they feel like it, and that's going to be for a very long time. If it's lasted 10 years, who knows how much longer it's going to last. His second question. So I know I'm extremely late in asking about this, but how has your theater experience been for pay-per-views? As someone who's only access to pay-per-views for almost a decade was my local theater, I'm curious to hear what you think about watching wrestling on the big screen with other fans. So honestly, here's the thing. I think it's a great experience. I wouldn't do it for every WWE pay-per-view. They don't even have all their WWE pay-per-views in theaters. I know they had Mania and SummerSlam in theaters. Those are the only shows I would recommend probably for WWE watching in theaters. Because, I mean, elsewhere, I think the network is available in most countries. And here in the U.S., Peacock you can watch the WWE shows for $5, albeit with commercials, but it doesn't really replace anything other than random video packages. So the WWE pay-per-views in this country, in the U.S., I know you're Canadian, are $5. I assume you finally have the network, so you can obviously watch it there, I think, for $10. I wouldn't watch fucking Extreme Rules in a theater because those shows are completely pointless for the most part. The bigger pay-per-views with a bigger fan base, I assume some people would show up to the theater to watch those. Those might be worth it. For me, the only Alexis actually saw SummerSlam in a theater last year with her brother. I wasn't there for that because I ended up going to SummerSlam last minute. The only pay-per-views I've seen in theaters are the AEW ones. Full Gear and Revolution we saw in theaters. I didn't watch Double or Nothing in theaters. We saw RJ for that one, so we watched it at his house. And Forbidden Door, I'm not sure if they did that in theaters or not. I think they did. They only did it like one in my area. That wasn't really important enough to warrant going to a theater anyway. Because those pay-per-views, I mean, for me personally, I get all the AEW pay-per-views for free because I write for Bleacher Report. So because of that link, I get all the shows for free. All of you, I assume, do not write or work for Bleacher Report, so you probably don't get them for free. And on Fight TV or on the BR app, they're like $45, $50 or whatever it is. At a theater, yeah, the tickets are like $25, and it's like, oh, with the food, I mean, I gotta drive. It depends how close you are, and you don't have to get popcorn when you're there. I mean, you could bring your own shit and just sneak it in or whatever the fuck. A lot of people would just rather watch it from their home, and that's fine. I honestly encourage the theater experience. I have said this before. I fucking loved watching Full Gear, and RJ can attest to this because he was there for that one, and Revolution as well. They were both great experiences. The theaters, at least in my area, and I live in the middle of fucking nowhere in Connecticut, and I still found a theater that played both pay-per-views, and there was a lot of people in each theater for both shows, and it's AEW. It's not even WWE. So, and again, this is the middle of WWE country over here in Connecticut. And there were still a lot of people there for that AEW pay-per-view, or both of them, actually. And they were rowdy. It was fun. Personally, for me, I love going to the movies. I love getting the popcorn. I love the experience. So mixing wrestling with that sort of environment to me is money. I love that sort of shit. I fucking love it. So you can't convince me otherwise as far as, oh, it's not a good idea and whatever. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. But for me, I mean, again, I'm actually paying more money to go watch it in a theater, and that's coming from me, as someone who I feel is it's worth it. For everyone else, paying $45, $50, unless they're streaming it for free somewhere, I guess, it's worth it, depending on how far the theater is. If it's a fucking, hour away, probably not. But the closest theater to me was 40 minutes, and I still thought it was a lot of fun. So, again, that's just me. I encourage it specifically for the AEW stuff, but if you want to do it for WrestleMania Summerslam, by all means, go ahead. You will be paying more money than you would be on Peacock or the network, but that's fine too. I would definitely encourage it for the AEW pay-per-views because there's only 4 or 5 a year anyway. I wouldn't go for Forbidden Door probably, but for All Out, if I'm not there, and I don't think I will be, I probably will go watch it in the theater because I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think people are going to be rowdy for that one as they were for Revolution in Full Gear. So I'm looking forward to that. At @new_N_1991. What are your thoughts on Austin Theory winning the men's Money in the Bank match? Do you think it's the worst booking decision ever? No, I'm actually in the minority. I think you expect me to shit on it. I actually liked it. Him coming out as the 8th entrant, the mystery entrant, I mean, it was surprising, but it wasn't really surprising when he won because he was the 8th entrant. And, honestly, I didn't think it was a slam dunk. I thought they might have done that. They might have done that as like a red herring. Oh, Theory might win, and then it's Rollins still. No, but Theory did win. I wouldn't have him cash in anytime soon. I think that would be a mistake. Definitely. He's not ready for that quite yet. If he cashes in the spring, which is what I would do, hold on to it for a while, by that point I think he might be ready. So actually I like it. I think I like that a lot more than Rollins winning it because Rollins would have been interesting with Roman being champion again and whatever, him and Brock at SummerSlam, but I mean we've seen him as Money in the Bank before. I don't really have a desire to see that again, so I'm fine with it being Theory. He's a fresh face. Build him up. People don't like Theory. I get it. That's fine. You were totally inclined to have your opinion. Everyone has a right to have their own opinion. But mine is that I like Theory and I like the outcome. So I honestly had no issue with that at all. I actually kind of liked it. His second question, what are your thoughts on the no-holds-barred match between Asuka and Becky Lynch on Raw this week? I find it very exciting to watch. Some fans love it while others don't. They didn't find the match too hardcore or Asuka losing in a no DQ match. Fans are extremely fickle these days on social media. I thought it was a good match. I didn't mind the fact it wasn't overly extreme. It's a WWE no-holds-barred match. What the fuck do people expect? I mean, it's not going to be blood and guts. It's not going to be anarchy in the arena. I honestly think if you could find it somewhere in the middle, have it more hardcore than the Becky and Asuka match, but a little less hardcore than what we got in those other two. I mean, I love blood and guts, actually. Anarchy in the arena, I fucking hate it. So, and AEW just does that shit way too often. WWE does a handful of no DQ matches as well, so it's not just an AEW issue. But in a vacuum, I like the match. I just hope it's the end of the feud. We've seen way too much of Becky versus Asuka. The feud's been going on for longer than it probably should have, but I liked the match. I thought it was a good match, and I thought it had the right result. So I enjoyed it for what it was. Next question from @KyleRochelle19. It's cool to see Liv Morgan as champion now that she's back on SmackDown. It's a good thing. It'll make the women's division more exciting like it was in 2016 and 2018. Why are people not giving Liv a chance as champion? Stop having the championship on the same women. Listen, I agree. People already shitting on it. Oh, she doesn't feel like a champion. Listen, my response to us not liking that other people don't like it is that people will complain no matter what. And it's not even just the same people. I'm not going to say, the same people that were complaining about Liv not being champion or complaining about her being champion. No, it's other people that didn't really want to see her as champion in the first place, now just are louder, their voices is louder because they have a difference of opinion. It is what it is. It's really not always the same people. I'm not going to sit here and shit on it because for the longest time I thought they weren't really capitalizing on what they had with Liv. She's popular, and she's been over. She's been booked very poorly in the last year for the most part. She never wins whenever it matters most. And I know she's an underdog, but eventually underdogs have to win a big match eventually. And she never won shit. She was never even fucking the tag team champion, which she should have been. Those pointless titles. I mean, that just blows my mind. So, yeah, I don't know. I like Liv as champion. I think it's cool. I'm all for it. We'll see how far it goes. To answer Noob's next question, I don't think Liv is going to escape SummerSlam as champion. He asked me, what are your thoughts on her cashing in? Do you think it's the right move? Will we see a long reign from her? No, I don't, honestly. I think she will drop it at SummerSlam. But like I said, I also thought she would lose a Money in the Bank and never be focused on again. So I was wrong there as well. We will find out in due time. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they keep her face and they book her well and she doesn't lose at SummerSlam. She doesn't lose by fucking DQ or some shit. I I hope they can book her well because she deserves it. She deserves a real run to see if it works. If it doesn't work, take the belt off her. But it's been fucking like 3 or 4 days, people. Oh my God, people didn't like the promo. That's fine. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But don't say take the belt off of her. It's only been a couple days. I'm not even saying a lot of people have said that, but give it a couple weeks, book her well, give her a real chance, and don't say if she's booked poorly, oh, we gave it a shot, it didn't work. Well, that's the company's fault when they don't book her well. So it's got to go both ways. She's got to deliver. So far, I think she has. She's over, so I like it. I like Liv Morgan as champion. We'll see where it goes. Hopefully, she stays in the spot, and it's not as short-lived as Nikki Ash's run a year ago. And that's going to do it, guys, for episode 449. I can't believe I'm even saying that for hashtag AskGSM, July 6, 2022. Thank you guys, as always, for supporting the show today, last week, always, in the last 9 years, whether you've just joined the community in the last few months, years, or been here since day one. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much for all your support. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a question on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. With all that being said, guys, enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.